And welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, episode 11 here of TecspertZ. Your hosts here, Markayla, Anthony, Max, and Brennan, back at it for another one. I want to keep in mind and let you guys know that TecspertZ is sponsored by the Big Vape Theory and East Carolina University's Office of Undergraduate Research, as well as TecspertZ is a collaboration between WZMB and the East Carolinian. Well, let's get right on into it, shall we? So, it looks like these East Carolina football Pirates might be going bowling, ladies and gentlemen. Might be having a bowl game here. Might have a possible bowl game here. So, a big win last week again against Memphis, 30-29, the final score in overtime. Barely just sneaked through. And, wow, what a game here. We just talked about it kind of before we got on the show, about how Holton did not actually throw for any touchdowns. He had 2 interceptions. He ran in a touchdown himself. It was a big running attack here for this East Carolina football team. And no receiving touchdowns, obviously, for the Pirates, other than Tyler Snead had himself a day. 13 catches, 113 yards receiving. Ryan Jones, at tight end, had 4 catches for 70 yards. Those are some of the big highlights on the receiving end. Obviously, Mitchell, 17 carries, 81 yards, and a touchdown. Harris had the most of the carries, actually. 20 carries, 69 yards, and a touchdown. And Holton, like I mentioned before, ran it in himself as well. To look forward to, we'll talk about Navy, but before we do that, let's do a little bit of a deeper dive into this Memphis win.
I mean, I'm proud of the Pirates, not for this win particularly and how they won it, but for the simple fact that they set a goal and accomplished the goal of 6 wins this season. So, kudos to the Pirates for that. Specifically for the Memphis win, we were talking about it a little bit earlier. It was kind of ugly. It was hard fought, but it was kind of ugly. Not any touchdowns through the air we were talking about. However, we did see a little bit of improvement on the passing game. We've seen the awakening of Ryan Jones. For the past 2 games, Ryan Jones has been incredible, and he's making plays on offense. Tyler Snead is doing what Tyler Snead does. It just didn't seem like we could get into the end zone with that one.
Absolutely. About halfway through our episodes, we decided that we're going to stop complaining about wins, and we're just going to take them as they are. With that being said, this was not a pretty win by any stretch of the imagination. 2 interceptions from Holton, 0 touchdowns. Usually when I see Holton throwing 2 interceptions, we're coming out below. Mm-hmm. So at least we got the win here. It was a very hard-fought battle, which is why I see this as a positive. Even though that's a ugly win game, we come out on top. This is the first game that we've really been able to eke out that's been a close, hard-fought game throughout the entire way. And Mike Houston even said in his press conference, those Houston losses and the UCF loss really helped us get to this point. But the offense, I do agree, has been taking some strides in past weeks, most definitely on the side that they are spreading the ball around. Even though Tyler Snead has picked up 13 receptions, 113 yards, which is phenomenal for him, he's been playing out of his mind the entire season. Mm-hmm. So lately, we've been moving the ball around. Ryan Jones getting some carries. C.J. Johnson making a few big catches for us. Even though he hasn't always been targeted, he's been coming up with those big plays. And usually, it's for a big game. Yeah. So really spreading the ball around even better. And Keaton Mitchell and Rajay Harris both coming out with a decent performance. Each picking up a touchdown with above 50 yards. I mean, you can't complain that running game was a real threat.
Yeah, I think we were just talking about Snead, and he made the AAC honor roll, and then he also became number 4 in Pirate history of, I believe, receptions, completions. So I think that's great. He was played great. 113 yards, like we said. We didn't see any of our running backs hit 100 yards, which is rare, especially for Mitchell. Like, we usually get one of them. We didn't get either of them, but, I mean, it was not a 4-quarter game like we've been wanting. We didn't get anything in the third quarter. Barely held through an overtime. If they would have kicked, I think we would have seen another overtime, and then could have been a different story. But like you said, we're just going to be happy that we won. Going to take it. I'm just going to move on. We got the 6th win. We can still got to play hard against Navy, but at least we feel like we got the 6 wins. We can get one more, and then we can verse Big Dog Cincinnati.
Obviously, that big stop at the end is pretty much what set us over the bar for us to win the game. I mean, if they complete that right there, it could be a different story.
Yeah.
Have us talking about on this episode.
Which I'm personally very happy that the game comes down to our defense.
Yeah.
They've been playing out of their mind recently. Jaquan McMillan with yet another interception in this game. It feels like every time I'm watching the games and there's an interception, I could guarantee it's going to be number 21 up on your screen. Jaquan McMillan coming up with a big play. He's really there for us, even though he was still a little injured this week from the game previous week. Still fighting through that, making a lot of big plays. He's really the leader on that defense. And the defense really has showed up every single game this season. I mean, 29 points, yeah, it's on the higher end, but when you think about it, they're only put up a maximum of 7 in each quarter. We held them to several field goals. They put up 3 field goals when they were in the red zone that they had to settle for. And so really playing a phenomenal. And if we're going to go down into a fourth quarter or an overtime stop and we need a stop, I don't want to rely on our offense having to drive the ball down there and shove it in on 2-point conversion. I want our defense out there. I want them making the play. And this is a play that Memphis had gone to several times throughout the season. They'd obviously found success with, and a play that the ECU Pirates did see on tape.
Right.
So I was talking to my friend about this, and he believes he didn't think that was a good play, but in my opinion, that's a good play for them at that situation.
Mm-hmm.
ECU just studied it. They could read it like a book, which is why when he rolled out, there was nothing there.
Right.
And that's what I want from the ECU defense, which has been the spark plug throughout the year.
Hey, listen, too, going on the road here at Memphis and getting the win is huge as
Big.
well. I mean, listen,
Big.
this is, of course, we've been playing well here at Dowdy, but to go on the road, we talked about it last episode. We got to go
Struggling
there
on the road.
for sure. Struggle on the road, and obviously the defense has been playing great. And another thing with McMillan, you would think that offenses would want to shy away from throwing it in his direction. It seems to be that they don't.
They attack him each and every week, and it always seems to be the same route he picks off, which is like a button hook comeback route that he just jumps right in front of and is able to take it. I mean, you'd think that they would look at the scouting report of this guy that has somewhere
He's ready to
at
go.
least 3, 4, 5 interceptions this year easily, making a lot of good plays. And even when he's not coming out with an interception, it's hard to throw against him. I mean, he's just a big presence over there on the right side of the field. And yeah, 30-29, a big, hard-fought win. So we haven't been able to see ECU go in and play against these road teams and come out in these close games. Obviously, Houston and UCF, big losses for ECU that should have or could have been wins as we look back.
100%.
But this big win against Memphis now secures us a bowl eligibility, and we were both 5-4 going into this game. So it was the winner was bowl eligible. So we're happy that we played against a team that's looking like they're also going to be bowl eligible and able to compete for 4 or 5 quarters, and really grind it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a hard-fought game in overtime, and I like to see that out of ECU because a lot of the times when we get down to that fourth quarter and in crunch time, we see ECU fold in past years. But, again, like you said, I'm glad it was up to our defense on the last play of the game, whether they were going to make it or not. I do believe, like you said, that if Memphis elected to kick, we are kind of discussing a completely different game
It's a
because
different game.
in that situation, it's hard, as a coach, it's hard to make that decision when you're down by 1 and you want to go for the win, or you can force another overtime and get a longer chance to score. But I'm glad things happened the way they were, being on the ECU side of things. The ECU defense has been phenomenal this whole season. Our predictions were kind of close. We were in that 30-20 range. I do wish the margin was a little bit bigger against this Memphis team. I feel like ECU could have put up this 30-point game, but held Memphis to less points. I think it could have been done. Some mistakes were made here and there, but going forward and looking towards Navy, I think there's ECU needs to take this opportunity and treat it like it's the last game of the season. We played Cincinnati in our last game of the season, but they need to treat this away game as the last game of the season because we haven't played good on the road like you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, and like you said, our offense did pretty well. They got 30, but we definitely could have gotten more. We only scored field goals in the second quarter. We didn't get any touchdowns because we got down the field and then we were stopped on the fourth down. We went for a few fourth down conversions. Didn't always work out. Holton got sacked 6 times. So we still got to protect him because we got to have touchdowns to win, obviously. Can't have a quarter with 0, and we can't have a quarter that we're only depending on field goals. So we're going to take that with Navy and then definitely Cincinnati.
Absolutely. The one thing that I would say to that is on the bright side, the flip side of that second quarter, is that Owen Daffer played very well.
Yep.
Coming out struggling. I mean, if you're an ECU Pirates fan that's been watching this entire season, you know Owen Daffer has been struggling, especially trying to follow Jake Verity. Really struggling out there, missing several field goals, several easy field goals. As high on the year going into this Memphis game was 39 yards. Really struggling a little bit. Able to put 9 points up by himself, not missing a field goal or an extra point this entire game, which comes out to 6 field goal kicks, which is very good for him.
Also got him AAC Special Teams Player of the Week, so good to see a freshman get that.
Absolutely.
That's
and
great.
Then on the negative side of our offense, they were able to move the ball effectively. Obviously struggled a little bit, successful through the air, but also struggled a little bit through the air. A little bit bad decisions. I feel like some of our play calling was good. I'll preface this. I think the play calling has been phenomenal this year, much better than it was with past seasons. But I think sometimes we try to force the razzle-dazzle. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but, struggling a little bit with Tyler Snead getting that razzle-dazzle play out there.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, Holton trying to force the ball in the end zone on a play where if we settle for a field goal Obviously, it's not what we want, but we increase our margin of lead. So smarter decisions need to be made, I believe, both on the quarterback and the coaching staff. I believe we need to rely on ourselves to get the ball down the field with our run game, with our basic pass game, and then pull out the razzle-dazzle when we feel it's necessary, not if we just want to go for it. But overall, a lot better than this year with the play calling. I like that we're going for it early on the plays. We're trying to pick up early yards, going for those 8, 9 yard pass plays for second down, so we don't have to worry about getting into those third and long situations.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Recap from last week's Memphis game. Luckily, ECU getting the win there, 30-29, the final score in overtime. Now, a look forward to this week, this Saturday, 3:30 start at Navy. Navy, another opponent here. We're going on the road here and taking a look at some of Navy's games that they played. They lost to Notre Dame last week, 34-6. However, they did beat Tulsa, 20-17. They lost actually a pretty close game to Cincinnati, 27-20. That's something to make note of. They did lose to Memphis, 35-17, a team that we just beat on the road. They lost to SMU earlier in the year. They did beat UCF. They lost to Houston. Air Force beat them, and Marshall also beat them 49-7. So,
but they did play very well against UCF in that 30-34.
They sure did. As a matter of fact, they sure did. 34-30 was the final score. And they ended up beating UCF, at home. So some of the games there, and again, one that I want to make note of is that the fact that Memphis beat Navy in Memphis, okay? And then Cincinnati went on the road and beat them at home 27-20. Only by a touchdown that affair was decided by. Obviously, Notre Dame is one of the best teams in the country.
And Cincinnati also struggled against Tulsa coming in, so that's
this is
something
true.
to consider going into our final
So
game.
that's a couple things to make note of here for this Saturday, but all in all, we're going to have to face them, and we're going to have to go to Navy and get the job done. I like what you said here about that we need to treat this as the last game of the season because Cincinnati now is going to be coming into town next week, and we'll have that all covered for you next week. That's going to be a tough, very tough opponent for us to handle there. But this one, we have to have all eyes and everything, all hands on deck, all eggs in one basket here to try and defeat Navy and get to that 7-win mark, which would be really great. As far as predictions go, let's go around the table and figure out what we think for this week. I will start, Brandon, with you.
Cool. So, I mean, Navy's 2-7. This is a team that we're looking at that is usually a powerhouse or a much better football program than what we've seen this year. Somebody that's usually putting hits on big teams, ranked teams that are knocking them out of the college football rankings. But this year it just hasn't been the case. I think ECU is going to be able to take Navy at Navy. I think ECU is going to come in on top something like 35. Hopefully we can get in the end zone more this game than last game. So I'm hoping we put up like 35-17. I'm going to go with. I think that was my score from last week, but I think I'm going to go with that again.
Okay. Max?
I'm going to go. So I've been looking at these scores. Navy to me seems like an up and down team a little bit. They seem like they come out and they play pretty good in some other games and they just get completely wiped out. I'm looking at the Air Force game and the Marshall game early. But they do look like they have improved throughout the entire season, obviously beating UCF, putting up solid 20-point performances against SMU and the Navy, and squeezing out a tough game versus Tulsa. But then again, coming off a really big loss against Notre Dame, who, as we know, is number 6 in the nation. So I'm going to go 42-24 ECU to go to Navy to get the win.
Wow, how about that? 42. All right, okay, very good.
I was thinking in the 40s too as well
Wow.
for some reason. I don't know why. But, I mean, some of their losses have been really big losses. I think we're coming in. We're excited that we're going to a bowl game. We know that Navy's not doing amazing this year. This is, like we said, we got to treat it like our last game, but I think they just got to play smart. No injuries, nothing crazy, because we got to get home safely. They've only won one game at home so far. We're going there. I'm going to say like 42-28. Let's say that.
So big offensive numbers here for this ECU team. Okay, I like to hear that. As far as for myself, I will go 31-23. A little closer, but still enough for us to go there and get the job done. Again, we're going on the road here. Let's keep that in mind. I know our defense is something that we want to rely on and has played well for us in the past, pretty much all season long for us. But, again, we don't know what we're going to get here with Navy.
Right.
Now, my prediction could be totally wrong as far as their offense. I don't know if they're going to score 23 points. They might only score a field goal. They might only have 3 points. Or they might see a much closer contest, maybe a game that's going to be decided by a field goal.
Navy
Who knows?
does seem to be, as I
Like
said,
you said,
Navy
up and
does
down.
seem to be an up and down team.
Very fluctuant.
They seem as they have improved a good bit throughout the beginning of the season. Obviously, losing big to Marshall, 49-7, and losing big to Air Force or medium to Air Force, 23-3, and then putting up some pretty solid performances.
Yeah.
But then just completely falling apart last week
to fall off
against
again.
Notre Dame. So I think I agree with what Markayla said. We know we got that bowl game. We're excited, and we're coming out. We got to come out with our foot on the gas. And I don't expect to see all of our starters playing all minutes of the game. I expect to probably see Mason Garcia get some playing time, especially if we have a lead going into the second half of the game. But this is just, for me, this is a good point for these young guys to prove themselves. I mean, Holton's got he's got next year left in him, but we're going to have to see Mason Garcia probably picking up some of the role moving into what would be his senior season. So I want to see him actually make some reads, make some good throws. Don't try to force anything. Trust himself to throw. But I think this is gonna be a big game for us. But we need to go out with our foot on the gas and treat it as if it is our last game.
100%. So there you go. East Carolina and Navy this weekend, 3:30 at Navy. Another thing I want to note here is that Navy, this is the first time that they're going to be back home in 3 weeks. So they have been on the road of late. Last time they played at home was against Cincinnati, and that was a somewhat close game. So just a little note there to keep in mind. But hopeful that the ECU Pirates will get the win on the road this weekend. With that being said, I'll sign it over to Markayla with some other news in the other sports here at ECU.
Yep. So volleyball didn't have the best weekend. They lost to they lost to Houston and Tulane. But they will be back here at home this weekend, Friday against Tulsa in a painted black game at 6 o'clock. And then Sunday, which will be senior night, Wichita State at noon. So we have those to look forward to. And then basketball's officially back. The women's are 0-2 right now, but they played 2 away games. They are at home actually tonight, which is Monday night. And then they will also have upcoming games, which is Thursday and Sunday. And then we have men's basketball, who is 3-0 to start off the season. Tristan Newton got
round of applause for the men's basketball team.
Tristan Newton got his career best of 30 points and made the AAC Weekly Honor Roll, and I'm just proud that they're 3-0. And now that's at home. They're going to go away now. We're going to see how that works out. But they got some games coming up this week. They play Oklahoma, which is a Big 12 team that they don't see very often, in a Myrtle Beach Invitational. So it'll be neutral ground for both. So let's just hope for the best.
All right. How about that? That's great. Good news over here at ECU and here in Greenville. A lot of buzz with this basketball team for sure. A lot of people talking about it. Hopefully they can keep this thing going.
Yeah.
Athletics are taking off on all cylinders.
Let's just keep it going.
We got a 3-game win streak on football and basketball.
Yeah,
That's a good year right now.
life is good.
I will say, not
right
only
now.
a 3-game win streak on football, but our second 3-game win streak this season,
Which is
after
crazy.
not being
That's
able to do it
true.
for several years.
Yeah.
That's
Wow.
true.
So-
How about that?
Not only did we get it for the first time in several years, but now we've gotten it twice in a season.
So there's a little turn here with the sports now. This is what I like
that's
to say.
that's what I'm hoping.
Hope so.
That's what I'm
Fingers
hoping.
crossed.
Yes.
Knock
Knock
on
on
wood.
wood.
We did it at the same time. Knock on wood. Oh, that's fantastic. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Well, that does it here of this episode of TecspertZ, episode 11. I want you to know that TecspertZ is sponsored by the Big Vape Theory and East Carolina East Carolina's University's Office of Undergraduate Research.
There you go.
We're firing on
We
all
made it
cylinders.
through.
We are fired
We made
up.
it through.
I'm sorry, we're fired up. And TecspertZ is a collaboration between WZMB and the East Carolinian. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps it up. We will see you next time. Markayla, Anthony, Max, and Brennan signing off. We'll see you then.